I wish I could have went because I would have loved to watch the kids, but mother didn't have anybody around. Had to go home and check with her. But I heard from Eric and Faith who went that our older kids did really good, and our younger kids did good, but the older kids did really good. As a matter of fact, they weren't really keeping the score because it was just a mock Bible Bowl, but we held our own, I understand, from against Beaver Dam and another church that they played against. So that was very good. And you tell these little kids that you've seen them and proud of them. And Faith said it really helped because now we focus in and we sort of know how to teach and train and work with those kids that will be better prepared. And hopefully when they get ready to do the real thing, I'd love for our church to really show up in a big way to support these kids. So we'll find out. You don't know when that's going to be, do you? So we'll find out. So today was just a mock Bible Bowl, but it will be held at Beaver Dam and probably will be on a Sunday afternoon also, but mean a lot for our church to show up and try to support these kids. Taylor Housen talked to me a little bit tonight, and she just said God put it upon her heart to just have a little Bible study for the women. And if you would like to be part of that, there's a book that they're asking all the women to buy, and if you check with her, she can tell you how to get that book. And what she's going to do is once everybody gets the book and get a few more people involved, she's going to try to get together a time that can meet. And she says, I'm not going to try to do it every week because everybody would just be burned out. So she thought she might start with just one time a month for all the women to be able to come together and have a little refreshment, have a little Bible study just for the women to come together and do that. And then as we start meeting as they meet and talk, they might go every other week or something like that. So if you are interested, if you'll just talk with Taylor, she told me the name of the book. I want to think the name of the book is called Seamless. Does any of you women know that? Have y'all talked with her? But I think, but it's not, from my understanding, it's not just for the younger ladies. It's for any ladies within the church that would like to be part of that. So if you're interested, just talk with Taylor, and she can give you more information about what she's going to do. But she just said God put that upon her heart. She asked me, would it be okay? I said, absolutely. If God's put that upon your heart, it wouldn't be for me to tell you not to. So she's going to give me more information when she knows more about that. The Valentine banquet and cake auction is going to be February 11th. I know they probably haven't asked anybody yet, but I know last year they wanted people to make cakes or get a cake so they could auction it off. So all this money that we're going to raise through this is going to help go and do some more to our playground. So hopefully you can plan to come that night and be saving up some pennies now so you can bid on a cake. We really had some good auctions. What was the highest price cake? Didn't we have a cake bring about $200 and some last year? Seemed like we did. I believe Frito just went absolutely wild. I said, well, my Lord, she really wanted that cake, but she was doing it, and that's what it's about. Was the cake worth $200 and some? Probably not, but the kids were worth it. So that's. I won't. She might have thought, but still, she would probably tell you. She'd probably tell you that cake wouldn't be worth $200 and some. But there were some good cakes there, and but like I say, it's a group effort, and so be thinking about it. And I know they'll be asking pretty soon about who will make a cake. I know that's what they did last year, and so we'll have a good Valentine banquet, which we had a lot of fun last year. Played some games, it was a lot of fun, and at the end we had a cake auction, and there also will be. Have a little, there won't be any charge, but there's also, if you want to just donate some money to the youth through the meal, you can do that also. Women are going also, these women are wanting to do a lot, aren't they? And that's a good thing. May 5th through the 7th, the Women of Joy Conference, they'll be going down to the beach. Mission trips coming up, January 30th will be a trip to Wyoming, so you want to mark down that date. And also Monday, February 6th. I want to ask, did anybody else get a letter from the Columbus Baptist Association about it's time to renew for the kids? Do we pay through them or pay through the church, Dale? Pay to them. So now is that still, because the way the letter made it sound like we were supporting more of the mission effort rather than an individual child like we initially said. So can you fill us in a little bit more about how that works? just by the letter she sent, and Maida said it was supporting the mission effort. So I didn't know if it was helping support for the ones that's wanting to go over there now, or whether it's going on over there to support kids, or do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get the letter. I know on the children that we sponsor, each one's at a different time to pay the money.
Yeah, whenever you started.
I've got mine that's coming up 1st of March is when my next.
So it probably still supporting the kids then. I just couldn't remember whether it was here.
The ministry over there, Eagle Wings, is just growing phenomenal. I know that online and talking back and forth, Oscar, that they're trying to raise as much money as they can.
And how many kids do you think you're feeding now?
Over 15,000 a day.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's all over half of the western side of Nicaragua from north to south that he's got.
And in case you didn't and you're interested, they'll probably get you some information on that. The sponsor kid is still $15 a month, right? It's $15 a month for a kid, and you can, Did it go up to 18 now? Yeah, it might did. But I still thought it was $180. It's $180 a year. That's $15. That's $150. That's still $15 a month. It's $180 a year, $360 if you got two. Like me and Sherry had two. But if you're interested in doing it, you can pay it in a variety of ways. You can pay it all at one time and not have to worry about it till a year. You can pay it monthly if you want to do it. I think you can even set it up on Bank Draft if you want to set it up on Bank Draft. But if you're interested in sponsoring it, we know money's tight there and stuff. But honest to goodness, $15 a month, you really won't miss that. And tell them again what it buys for those kids, Dale. Can you remember?
It gives them medical and dental checkups throughout the year. It helps pay for medicine that's needed. It also helps provide them with uniforms to wear to school because the government will not allow them to go to school unless they have a uniform. Most of these that we're supporting, if they're working for someone buying them, they will never have it.
So Dale's our mission director. So if you are interested in that, have it done. If you'll talk with him, I'm sure he can get you hooked up where you can get started if you would like to do that. And also, okay, we did have choir practice today, and as far as I know, if we don't announce it, we didn't announce it this morning, we'll all be mentioning about choir practice if we're not going to have it. And so, and then the Brotherhood WMU will be Wednesday night. Brother Eric will be bringing the message to the men, and we ask everybody to bring a covered dish and some dessert or a little something, and we'll meet here at 6:30 for that. Then we'll break into our different groups. Any announcements I might have forgot? Okay. I'm just going to call all the names that were mentioned this morning, and then we'll add to it tonight as we need to. I didn't get a chance to talk back with Miss Carol Hamilton, but he was supposed to call me if they had to go to the ER, and I saw the truck at home. Miss Betty Willoughby, Tony Holland, Rendell Mitzi, Sarah and Cash Barnes. I need to write better. Allard Penny. How you pronounce? I-L-A. I put I-L-A-R-D. And I was trying to, Isla Penny and Grace Tyner, Melvin Singletary, Diane Hardwick, Mark Gore, Adam Gore, Shirley Tilley, Miranda, Barbara Nobles, Charles Jordan, Joe Walters family, John Reuben Watts, Deion Grissom, Adam Souls family, and Doug Souls. And you didn't call out your son's name this morning, but his name was Jacob Ponte. And so do you know if he's going to meet with the doctors this week? March 3rd. As you know, they've got a 21-year-old son. His kidneys are not working up to where they should, so he was going to meet a kidney specialist. But COVID once again changed everybody's plans. They had plans to go up. He had plans to go to the doctor, but COVID got into their house, and so they had to cancel out everything. So that's what we had called from this morning. Do you have anybody else tonight? And we didn't put Gail, but I want to put Gail on there. We did talk about her, but I didn't write her name down.
Eugene Mills.
Yeah, and Eugene Mills too. Eugene's doing well. He just cannot use his hands the way he could. He cannot even like button his pants and things of that nature. And I just don't know how long it's been. They just said he had some bad tissue damage in his hands. Just going to take a while to get back where it needs to be. Yeah.
Her heart, where it was not pumping blood like it was supposed to when
Right.
we first put it in Wednesday,
Right?
it has started working good.
Well,
and
good.
Took her back in and closed her up
Closed her up.
today.
So hopefully that heart's going to work now. Well, that's good news. She had a heart transplant, and the heart wasn't beating up to the rate that it should. So that's good news for Dion. Anybody else? Yeah, absolutely. We just do an update list each week, and I try to write it down. We used to try to try to put it in the bulletin all the time, but the list just got so long and we never knew who to take off, and so we do it this way now. It takes a little bit of time to give people a call out, but well, it's good now. What Scott, is he being checked for his prostate cancer?
Biopsy, he passed the biopsy on the 30th.
Okay, on the 30th. Anybody else? Who? Carol Moore. Anybody else?
He is, they had to put him in ICU in Georgia.
Okay,
His daughter is on her way there today.
okay.
It doesn't sound good, but she's going to meet the doctors tonight.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Unspoken request, like always. My Father, which art in heaven, we just come once again, Father, and lifting all these names up to you once again, Father, knowing that you're a great God, knowing that you hear our prayers, Father, and you'll answer them accordingly. So, Father, we just ask now that you be merciful, full of grace to each situation. And, Father, we ask now as we come to study a portion of our word that you'll open up our minds. And, Father, you'll be with us and lead and guide us in our study tonight. It's in the blessed name of Jesus Christ we do pray. Amen. All right, we're back in 2 Samuel. God led me to preach a message this morning and about being set free and civil war, and I used that as an illustration this morning about the slaves at that period of time that were being set free, but how many of them, even though they were by the Emancipation Proclamation had the paperwork to be set free, many of them did not go free. And tonight we see that civil war has come about after Saul and Jonathan have died, and we see that now Israel is divided. David has came, and he's the king of Judah, the southern tip of Israel, but the 11 other tribes are Ishabeth, which was the long son left of Saul. Ishabeth was the oldest son left of Saul. I think he actually had another son, but he was the one that Abner, who was the general for Saul's army. And I want you to realize we're going to focus a lot on Abner tonight. If you've already studied, you're going to see what Abner's playing both sides. And we'll see Abner ain't all that Abner thought it would be. And we remember last time how Abner had killed Joab's brother, Asahel. And we remember how he told Asahel, who was coming behind him and everything, quit following me now and leave. And when he finally didn't, that Abner went and he killed him. So that's going to cause bad blood, but you will see that everything will come to fruition tonight, and it's not a good thing. So let's begin here in chapter 3. You've got a song, Mark? And we in chapter 3 of 2 Samuel. So if you have your Bible at home, if you tuned in with us for our Sunday night Bible study, we're glad that you're with us. It says, now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. Is that a surprise to you? God had already decided that Saul's kingdom was over, and Saul was going to get weaker and weaker. So even though that Saul was not in charge anymore, and his son was, it's no surprise to me, because whatever God says is going to happen, that this kingdom is getting weaker and weaker. And unto David were sons born in Hebron, and his firstborn was Amnon of Ahinoam, the Jezreelites. Now, do you remember that he's brought 2 wives with him to Judah? And Abigail's one of them, who was Nabal's wife. You remember when Nabal, he went to ask Nabal to give his men something to eat, and Nabal says, I'm not going to give you anything, and then he was going to go and wipe Nabal off the face of the earth, but Abigail come and interceded and brought some food and all that, and God took care of Nabal, but he took Abigail as his wife. So he's got 2 wives. And I want you to know here, as we're going to see things that David did, even though David was a man after God's own heart, David did a lot of things that God was not pleased with. And I'm sure that in our life here, we probably do a lot of things that God's not pleased with. But I want you to see that having multiple wives was not something God's pleased with. Now, we see he's already got 2 wives. Now, he's got one wife that was given to him by Saul. You remember in our first chapter, you remember what her name was? It was Michal, Michal. But when he started running and Saul was trying to kill him, Saul took his daughter back and gave her to another man. She's going to come back to play now in this, because David ain't never forgot about her, and David will want her back. So remember that. If you've read ahead, you already know what I'm talking about. And in this here, it's like some of it's, I won't say any of the Bible is boring, but some of it you was reading and says, well, I don't care anything about this, but I wanted to show you tonight that it's important of what God puts in his Bible. And unto David were sons born of Hebron, and his firstborn was Amnon of Ahinoam, the Jezreelites, and his second, Chileab, of Abigail, the wife of Nabal, the Carmelite. And the third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Tamel, the king of Geshur. And the fourth, he just kept taking wives. Now watch this. And the fourth, Adonijah, the son of Haggith. And the fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abital, not Abigail, but Abital. And the sixth, Ethram, by Eglah, David's wife. These were born to David in Hebron. So we see here that David, if you count them all, in total now, it went from 2 wives to 6 wives. How would you men like that? Why do you think a king wanted so many wives? Anybody got a reason you want to say that?
His pride.
What'd you say? Well, that too, but it causes a lot of problems when you got that many sons with that many wives, but it could be true. But for a king to have multiple wives made him look good to the people. Well, look at King David and look how many wives he's got. And he'd have to pick of them the most beautiful women they are, and he'd put them in the harem, and no woman is going to refuse to be the wife of the king, because she gets to live a life of luxury and come. So I read behind and just wondered, why would a king want so many wives? The more wives that he would have in concubines, a concubine is not his wife, but he takes her in as part of his harem. The more he has, the more powerful he looks. Now, it's the downfall. We're going to see it's going to be the downfall as we go through 2 Samuel. It's going to be a downfall for David, too, to have all these wives and all these sons. And we're going to see here that Absalom, the son that he's going to have, is going to actually come up and try to kill his daddy, David. And we see that David has nothing like his son Solomon. We might just keep going instead of Solomon, but you know how many wives and concubines that Solomon had? Had 700. 700 wives and concubines. Can you imagine? I couldn't even remember all of them's names. But like I say, it was his downfall too. And it came to pass while there was a war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner, you remember who Abner was? You got to know all these people or you won't be able to catch up and you won't be able to understand it. Abner's the general for Saul's son Ishabeth. Abner's the one that took Ishabeth and put him in charge of the 11 others. Now, he had all authority to do that because naturally, him being heir to Saul, he had a right to the throne. And so David did not try to challenge him, but David come and he was made king of Judah. And so Abner made himself, took Ishabeth there, and he made himself strong for the house of Saul. Now, Abner is a very strong general. He rules the army. Now, Jonathan and Saul were both men who fought. They went out and fought just like the other men did. Ishabeth is no warrior. He's a weakling, only put in power by Abner because Abner knew that I could control him, and even though I don't have a right to be king, I can be kingly through him because I can tell him what to do. Sometimes I wonder if that might be going on somewhere else. I won't say any more than that. But Saul, it said, had a concubine whose name was Rizpah. Concubine's not a wife, but it's, I don't know the right word to say, a woman on the side or whatever, but she was there for him, and she was in his harem. Had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ai. And Ishabeth said to Abner, wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine? Now that was not permitted. Abner was not supposed to be laying with the king's women, but Abner did. And Ishabeth, it made him mad, or Ishbosheth, it made him mad. So he said to Abner, wherefore hast thou gone into my father's concubine? Then Abner, it said, was very wroth. He was mad for the words of Ishbosheth, and said, am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father, and to his brethren, and to his friends, and have not delivered into the hand of David, that thou chargest me today with a fault concerning this woman? Abner was insulted. When you got talking about a dog at that time is not considered as a dog of today. We think of a dog today as man's best friend, but it was not thought of in that day. And when he said the expression, am I a dog's head, which against Judah, in saying that, it's not to mean anything good. In other words, he's saying, do you think of me no more than a dog? And so he said, did I not stand up for you and stand up against David, and did not put you in the house of Saul, thy father, to be able to do the things that you're doing? So he was upset that Ishbosheth would even stand up and say anything against him. So do God to Abner, and more also, except as the Lord hath sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan even to Beersheba. And he could not answer Abner a word because he feared him. Abner says, you don't know who you're dealing with. He says, I'll take everything away from you. I'll give it all to David. And there's not a thing you can do about it. That's probably the way the conversation went. And Ishabeth, because he was scared of him, sat there quiet. He didn't say a thing. He didn't tell Abner, I'll have your head, because it was hard for him to do that because Abner did not rule the fighting men. I mean, Ishabeth did not rule the fighting men. Abner ruled the fighting men. So it says that at this time he was so upset, Abner was, that he sent messengers to David on his behalf, saying, whose is the land? Saying also, make thy league with me, and behold, my hand shall be with thee, to bring about all Israel unto thee. So Abner says, well, I see things ain't working out here. I'm being talked to like a dog, and I don't like it, so I'll play my hand to the other side. I know David wants to put this kingdom together. I know he wants to be the king over everything, but he's not the type man to come and kill Saul's son to do it. So maybe I can help this transition and make it happen. So Abner has come and sent messengers to talk with David and see if David would be willing to listen to what Abner is saying. And he said, well, I will make a league with thee, But one thing I require, this is David, he sent back this message. I'll make a league with thee, but one thing I require of thee, that is, that before I see thy face, except thou first bring Michal. There she is. David hadn't forgot about her. You've got to bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when thou comest to see my face. He's told Abner, I'll make a league with thee, but you got to do something for me first. You got to go get Michal, and you got to bring her to me. He wanted his wife back. That was his first wife. That's the one he had. Now, I don't know how much David loved her. He must have loved her some to want her back. It could have been out of pride that he just wanted her back. She was mine. Somebody took her, and I'm king now, and I want her back. And David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, Saul's son, saying, deliver me my wife Michal, which I espoused to me for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. Let's see how well you remember what we studied. You remember when Saul says, if you'll go kill the Philistines and bring me 100 foreskins, I will give you my daughter Michal. And he was hoping that David would be killed, but David didn't. But David didn't only bring him 100 foreskins. Do y'all remember? The question is, how many foreskins did he bring? He brought 200. Thomas got it back there, 200. Brought 200 foreskins. I'm gonna carry you to the bowl at Beaver Dam, Thomas. Yeah. And so, what you think Ishbosheth going to do? If he's scared of Abner, do you not think he's scared of David? And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, even from Phladtiel, the son of Laish. Now, I don't know about you. When I read this here, I felt sorry for him. He loved Michal. And so when Saul took him away from David, he gave him, and she married Phladtiel, the son of Laish. Now, her husband, it says, in verse 16, this is what made me feel sorry. When he seen that his wife was being taken from him to give to David, it said her husband went with her along, weeping behind her to Bahurim. Then said Abner to him, all right, you go on and return. And then it said he returned. He went with her just as long as he could to see her, crying the whole way, said, I don't want you to go. And she might have been crying too, I don't want to go. But when Abner seen him, she said, you've got to go back. And it said he returned. That's sort of like a sad love story, ain't it? Two people that probably loved each other. They probably had a good life. But because David wanted her back, he had to give her up. And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel, saying, ye thought for David in times past to be king over you. See, Abner was already putting things in motion because of what Ishbosheth had done to him. Just because he slept with a concubine of Saul made him mad. Now then, he says, do it. For the Lord has spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel out of the hand of the Philistines and out of the hand of all their enemies. And Abner also spake in the ears of Benjamin. And Abner went to speak to the ears of David at Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel, and that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin. So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him. And David made Abner and the men that were with him a feast. Now, notice at this time, Joab, who is David's general, is not around. And notice that Abner has come with his 20 men, and him and David are making a pact. And Joab's not around to know about it. And Abner said unto David, I will arise and go, and I will gather all of Israel unto my lord the king, that they may make a league with thee, and that thou mayest reign over all that thine heart desireth. And David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Now David wants to be king of all of Israel. So David has entered in with Abner because he feels like that's the best way to proceed forward to stop the civil war. Because who was the civil war with? It was with David's men and Joab, his general, and with Ishbosheth and Abner and those men. So now if the general who leads the army of the other side is coming and willing to make a deal, the king naturally is going to listen, and he's going to do what's right to try to stop the civil war. But remember, Abner did a bad thing. What did Abner do? He killed the brother of Joab, Asahel. Now, if somebody kills your brother, there's sort of an old saying, you have to take blood for blood. But I want you to think about this now. Hebron is a refuge city. Do you know what a refuge city is? A refuge city is where if you commit a certain crime, that as long as you're in that city, they cannot do anything to you. Did you know we had refuge cities in the United States of America for migrants? Sanctuary cities. And the migrants can go into those cities, and as long as they are in those cities, the cops or nobody can do anything to them, or as long as they don't break a law. Now, if they break a law, they can be transported back, but as long as they don't break a law, they can stay there. Hebron was a refuge city for anybody who kills somebody. So Abner probably knew that. And he probably knew that as long as I'm in Hebron, where David was, I'll be okay. Because he probably had in the back of his mind, Joab might try to kill me, but Joab can't touch me as long as I'm within that city. Remember that now. I'm telling you that for a reason. And behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop. So Joab then was out fighting the battle when Abner was meeting with David. They came from pursuing a troop, and they brought in a great spoil. In other words, they had a great victory with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace. See, he told Abner, you go in peace. Now, David was smart enough not to have them both there at the same time, because David probably knew it's not going to be good. Because he did not like that Abner killed Joab's brother. David didn't like that either. When Joab and all the hosts that was with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and they have sent him away, and he is gone in peace. Boy, there was some just couldn't hardly wait till Joab got there and says, man, I can't wait to tell Joab Abner's been here. Because they knew how Joab felt. They knew that Joab wanted revenge for his brother's blood that Abner took. And to hear that Abner had been there and Joab didn't know about it. Have you ever seen people that just like to stir up trouble? I see these people, but I can't wait to tell Joab. I can't wait to sit back and see what's going to happen here. There's people like that in the world today. They just like to they like to talk both sides and like to keep something going. And when I read that, I thought that these were some of those people that just like to keep something going. But they told Joab, could have been Joab's friend, could have been fearful if they didn't tell Joab what Joab might do to them. So then it says in verse 24 that Joab came to the king and said, what hast thou done? You think Joab was a little mad about King David, who he was supporting, who looked after? You think he was a little mad that King David had brought Abner in and talked to him behind his back? Abner came unto thee. Why is it thou hast sent him away? And is he quite gone? Now Joab wished he was still there. But David knew that Abner didn't need to be there when Joab come. Thou knowest Abner, the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee. David, I can't believe that you talked to him. You know he's not telling you the truth. How could you trust him? And to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. And when Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah, but David knew it not. Joab went after him. And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly. And there he smote him under the fifth rib, and he died for the blood of Asahel, his brother. Joab couldn't wait. And when he heard he come, and he just says, that guy's up to no good again. And so he's got revenge. Now, remember that Hebron was a refuge city. Look what Abner did. When Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate. Aside in the gate, meaning he took him right outside the gate. He was right outside of Hebron. If he'd been inside the gate, Joab couldn't have done anything. Now watch what David says about this. And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever from the blood of Abner, the son of Ner. David says, I want you to know, I had nothing to do with this, because it would have looked bad for the king if he'd come now with civil war going on and he's a general of the other side. If David had planned the killing of Abner, it would have just looked bad. So David's letting them know, I had nothing to do, because David's seeing right now, I thought I had everything worked out so I could be king of all of Israel. And now, Joab, you've come and messed everything up. You've went and killed Abner. And they're going to look like I set them up and did all this, Joab. But Joab, he was after revenge. David was a politician in a way. He was trying to work both sides to get what he wanted. Let it rest on the head of Joab and all the father's house, and let there not fail from the house of Joab one that hath an issue, or that is a leper, or that leaneth on the staff, or that falleth on the sword, or that lacketh bread. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, who slew Abner, because he had slain their brother Asahel at Gideon in the battle. And David said to Joab and to all the people that were there with him, rend your clothes, and gird your sackcloth, and mourn before Abner. And the King David himself, father of the bier, that's the casket. David says, we're going, all of us, and we're going to act like we're sorry that Abner's dead. Because if it had been an intentional killing, you would have boasted, you wouldn't have cared. But David says, get all the people, and we're going to show all of Israel that this was not meant to be, that Joab did it. And it says they buried Abner in Hebron, and the king lifted up his voice, and he wept at the grave of Abner. And it says all the people that was with the king also wept. And the king lamented over Abner and said this, he died, Abner, as a fool died. Why would David say that? He made that statement because it said Abner's a fool. If he'd stayed inside the gate, inside the refuge city, Joab could not touch him. But Joab come to him, says, Abner, could I speak to you right over here for a second? And as soon as Abner stepped outside of the gate, Joab killed him. And that's when David said he died a fool, not thinking. Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put into fetters. As a man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou. And all the people wept again over him, over Abner. And when all the people came to the house to cause David to eat meat while it was yet day, David sware, saying, so do God to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else till the sun be down. David was fasting because he was sorry that Abner had died. And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatsoever that the king did please all the people. What David was doing was being observed by Israel that he hoped to be the king of. He wanted them to really see that I'm sorry that your general has died. It was not my intent for him to be killed in any way. For all the people and all of Israel then understood that day that it was not of the king to slay Abner, the son of Ner. David had to convince them, I did not order Joab to do this. It was not none of my planning. And the king said unto his servants, know ye not that there is a prince and a great man fallen this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king, and these men, the son of Zerah, be too hard for me. The Lord shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. And he's saying, God will take care of Joab. It's not my place to have to do anything to him because he did evil. Then we'll let God take care of it. So now we see that Abner's dead. So now what's going to happen to Ishbosheth and his kingdom? He's technically still there. He's still alive. He's lost his general who controlled the army. He's lost all of his power. David could have went in right by force and probably took it easily if he wanted to with his men. But David does not think it's right for him to touch Saul or any of Saul's kids because he feels like they are anointed. He feels like God should take care of this. We've already seen how many times people brought something to David and thought that David would be real well pleased, but David rewarded them by killing them. So let's see now that what's going to happen in chapter 4. And when Saul's son heard that Abner was dead in Hebron, his hands were feeble, and all the Israelites were troubled. Why? Because he was their man. Even though Abner might have did a lot of things they didn't like, they knew he had the power to keep them in charge. He could keep everybody in order. Everybody was fearful of Abner, and whatever Abner said was law. And if Abner said Ishbosheth was going to stay in power, Ishbosheth was going to stay in power. And Saul's sons had 2 men that were captains of bands. The name of one was Bana, and the name of the other was Rechab, the sons of Rimmon of the Beerothite, of the children of Benjamin. For Beeroth also was reckoned to Benjamin. Now these were the 2 captains of the armies. And the Beerothites fled to get him, and were soldiers there until this day. And Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son that was lame of his feet. And this is very important because in chapter 9 of 2 Samuel is one of the most sweetest chapters that we'll get to real soon. And you'll hear us talk more about Jonathan's son. And Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son that was lame of his feet. He was 5 years old when the tidings came of Saul and Jonathan out of Jezreel. And his nurse took him up and fled. And it came to pass as she made haste to flee that he fell and he became lame. And his name was Mephibosheth. This is one of the greatest and sweetest stories of what David's going to do for Mephibosheth, because this is Jonathan's own flesh and blood. And I want you to understand that at the time when the nurse that was looking after Mephibosheth, when she got news that Saul had died, at that time, any of the children that was left of Jonathan or Saul, they were fearful that they would be looked up and they would be killed. So the nurse, in her haste to try to take Mephibosheth up as a 5-year-old child and hide him, she dropped him on the rocks, and it broke his legs to the point that they didn't have the medical terms necessary at that time to heal his legs. And so the whole time and stuff, he could just walk as a cripple. And so that's a great story. So I want you to remember that about Mephibosheth and what happened to him, because chapter 9 will talk about when David hunts him up. And the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, and Rechab and Bana went, and it came about the heat of the day to the house of Ishbosheth, who lay on a bed at noon. He was sleeping. And they came thither into the midst of the house as though they would have fetched sweet wheat. They come to get some food. And they smote him under the 5th rib, and Rechab and Bana his brother escaped. For when they came into the house, he lay on the bed in his bedchamber, and they smote him and slew him, and they beheaded him. They cut his head off, and they took his head as proof that we've killed him, and they gat them away through the plain all night. Now here's what was going on. Abner was dead. There was going to be a power struggle. They felt like that Ishbosheth is not going to be able to withstand. He needs to be out the way. We need to throw our loyalties to David. He's going to be king, and we need to put everything to him. So they really felt like if we come in and we go ahead and kill Ishbosheth, and we carry his head to David and tell David, look, we've got this man out of the way. We know he was a problem for you. Now, David, you can be king over all of Israel. They really thought in their heart they were doing something that David would like. But let's see if David's happy about this. In verse 8, it says, they brought the head of Ishbosheth unto David to Hebron, and said to the king, behold, the head of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, thine enemy. See what it said? He says, here's his son. He was your enemy. He tried to kill you, which sought thy life. And the Lord hath avenged my lord the king this day of Saul and his seed. Man, they felt good about themselves. So look, man, we've killed Ishbosheth. David's going to, I ain't going to tell him what David might do to us. He's liable to put us at the very top. And I just can't wait to see what David's going to do. What you think David's going to do? And David answered Rechab and Bana, his brother, the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, and said unto them, as the Lord liveth, who hath redeemed my soul out of all adversity? When one told me, saying, behold, Saul is dead, thinking they have brought good tidings, You remember the guy that come and says that I've finished off Saul? He's talking about it. I took hold of him and slew him in Ziklag, who thought that I would have given him a reward for his tidings. How much more when wicked men have slain a righteous person in his own house, upon his own bed? He's saying, what's Ishbosheth doing? He was asleep. And y'all went in there while he was laying in his bed and y'all killed him. Shall I not therefore now require his blood of your hand and take you away from the earth? And verse 12 says, and David commanded his young men, and they slew them. And they cut off their hands and their feet, and they hanged them up over the pool of Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in the sepulchre of Abner in Hebron. And we'll stop there, chapter 5 there. But you see, David don't play now. He didn't want anybody, even though Saul had tried to kill him, even though Saul had did a lot of things. He wasn't going to tolerate anybody killing Saul or any of his family. Even though he wanted the kingdom, he was going to let God just work it out. And anybody that come to him, hopefully they've got the message now. And we'll see here in chapter 5 as we go forward, and instead of that David now is going to get to be king over Israel, and we'll get into his kingdom as he goes forward there. I like to always sing a song. I like to sing that song. Mark, do you know how to load up Grace, Grace? You might can't. You got it? I'd like to sing it again. I like that song. Let's stand and sing. If you need to come pray, or if I can pray with you, I'd be glad to.
Marvelous grace of our loving Lord, grace that exceeds our sin and our guilt. Yonder on Calvary's mount outpoured, there the blood of the Lamb was spilled. Grace, grace, God's grace, grace that pardoned and cleansed within. Grace, grace, God's grace, grace that is greater than all our sin. Dark is the stain that we cannot hide. What can avail to wash it away? Look, there is flowing a crimson tide. Whiter than snow you may be today. Grace, grace, God's grace, grace that will pardon and cleanse within. Grace, grace, God's grace, grace that is greater than all our sin. Marvelous, infinite, matchless grace, freely bestowed on all who believe, all who are longing to see his face. Will you this moment his grace receive?